Inheritance heist. My mom demanded my grandma's gift for my stepsister. I entered this world already marked for disaster. My parents' marriage was a ticking time bomb before I even existed. You planned this, didn't you? My dad would scream during their legendary fights. Got pregnant on purpose just to trap me. I heard that story so many times from my mom that I could practically lip sync it, even though I was too young to remember any of it myself. Mom always painted that as a reckless free spirit, too irresponsible to be a proper family man. He'd squander his paycheck on fleeting whims rather than saving for our future. Their arguments reverberated through our cramped house for long years after I was born, constant, draining. Money seemed to be the ever-present trigger, igniting one explosive fight after another. Finally, they made it official and divorced. But Dad didn't stick around to see how that worked out. He just finished. No forwarding address. Not a single child support payment. Your father is nothing but a selfish swine. A real man doesn't abandon his child. Mom would seethe, that familiar hard glint returning to her eyes every time his name was even whispered. Eventually, Mom and Grandma Eleanor couldn't stand each other. Grandma Eleanor blamed Mom for the failed marriage, always needling her about money and responsibility. When it was time for my visits with Grandma Eleanor, I felt this oppressive tension. But once inside her house, everything transformed. Grandma Eleanor would envelop me in warm hugs, her voice softening as she told me stories about Dad when he was young. She'd run her fingers through my hair and smile sadly. You look just like your father. Sweetheart, you have his eyes. Her cookie jar was always filled to the brim, a sweet escape from the bitterness that surrounded me. But everything changed on one rainy Tuesday in October when I was 8. Nicole, get your coat, Mom said, her voice uncharacteristically solemn. Grandma Eleanor wants to see us. It's important. The drive to Grandma's house felt different this time, heavy with unspoken apprehension. Usually, Mom would drop me off and speed away, eager to escape. Grandma Eleanor looked smaller somehow. Her usually perfectly styled silver hair was messy, but she managed to smile when she saw us. Sarah, Nicole, thank you for coming, she said, her voice a bit shaky. Please sit down, both of you. Mom actually sat down without argument. Then, Grandma Eleanor's lawyer appeared, a stern-looking man in a dark suit. I need to discuss something important, Grandma began, her voice wavering. I'm not well. My house and part of my savings will go to your Aunt Linda. She paused, her gaze softening as it landed on me. Nicole, but I've set up something special for you. I remember nervously playing with the hem of my sweater, not really understanding what was happening. I'm creating an educational fund for Nicole, she continued. It will cover her college expenses when she turns 18. Mr. Peterson here will manage it until then. Mom's posture changed instantly, her body stiffening. I noticed her hands, usually fidgety with anxiety, were now clenched in her lap. The money can only be accessed for educational purposes. Mrs. Eleanor has been very specific about these terms, Mr. Peterson stated flatly. I sat there, swinging my legs back and forth. College seemed like something from another lifetime. I was more concerned about my upcoming spelling test and whether Jenny Martinez would invite me to her birthday party. Sarah, Grandma said, reaching for Mom's hand, I want to make sure my granddaughter has opportunities, regardless of everything else. The unspoken mention of Dad hung heavy in the air between them. After signing some papers and saying our goodbyes, Mom was strangely quiet. As we pulled into our driveway, she said, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. Well, that was interesting. I didn't fully grasp the significance of that date until much later. At 8 years old, I was more excited about the butterscotch candy Grandma had slipped into my pocket when we left. Grandma Eleanor passed away just a few weeks after our last visit. The funeral was small and quiet, and I noticed Mom actually shed a few tears, though she tried to hide them. With Grandma gone, things felt even more uncertain. Over the next 2 years, Mom started dating a guy named Robert. He seemed nice enough, a little too polished, maybe. He had a good job at a bank, drove a nice car, and bought Mom flowers every Friday. Mom smiled more when he was around, and I hadn't seen her smile like that in years. Then they decided to get married, and Ashley, Robert's daughter from a previous marriage, would be moving in with us. I remember jumping up and down at first, my mind filled with visions of sharing secrets, having sleepovers in the same room, and finally having someone to play with who wasn't just a school friend. After years of being an only child in a broken home, I was desperately craving a sister. But my hopes were quickly dashed when Ashley made it clear she wasn't interested. I don't want to share with her, she whined to her dad, pointing at me like I was some kind of disease. She's not really my sister. That was just the beginning. Ashley quickly became the center of Mom's universe, constantly demanding her attention. Mom, watch me do this. Mom, look at my art project. Hey, Mom. When I finally broke down and told Mom how I felt, she dismissed my concerns with a wave of her hand. Don't be selfish, Nicole, she said, her voice laced with annoyance. Ashley lost her mother when she was very young. She needs the extra attention and woman's love. You should understand that. But what about my need for love? I wanted to scream, but the words caught in my throat. It seemed like there was never enough love to go around. Not for my father, and certainly not for me. The changes in our family happened so gradually that at first, I didn't fully realize the widening gap between me and my mother. But looking back now, the signs were glaringly obvious. It started with shopping trips. Mom would come home with bags full of designer clothes for Ashley fancy jeans, brand name sneakers, the latest must-have accessories. Meanwhile, I got my clothes from department store sales and discount outlets. Ashley needs to maintain a certain appearance at her new school, Mom would explain, not even bothering to look at me. Besides, you're not as interested in fashion as she is. Then came the biggest bombshell. I still remember the day they announced it over dinner. Ashley's test scores are exceptional, Robert announced proudly, beaming at his daughter. She needs a more challenging academic environment. We're enrolling her in Riverside Prep. Riverside Prep was the most exclusive private school in the state, known for its rigorous curriculum and ridiculously high tuition. What about me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Can I go to Riverside too? Mom and Robert exchanged that look I had come to hate, the one that meant they'd already discussed this without me, that my opinion didn't matter. Honey, you're doing fine at Lincoln Public, Mom said dismissively. Ashley has different needs. She's really gifted, you know. The regular program suits you better. That night, I cried myself to sleep, feeling more alone than ever. But something changed in me after that. As the years passed, I stopped showing her my report cards. I stopped telling her about my achievements, anything about my life really, because I knew she wouldn't care. I threw myself into my studies at Lincoln Public. I joined the debate team, competed in science fairs, and volunteered at the local animal shelter. My teachers would write glowing comments on my papers, praising my intelligence and work ethic. Meanwhile, at home, dinner conversations revolved around Ashley's latest achievements at Riverside Prep, her participation in the Model UN conference, her election for the Advanced Placement Program, her tennis tournaments against other private schools. Ashley's English teacher says she has real potential as a writer. Mom would gush, she gets straight A's without even trying. Robert would add proudly, I'd think about my own straight A's, the awards I'd won, the hours I'd spent studying. But I kept these thoughts to myself. What was the point of sharing them? My achievements at public school couldn't possibly compare to Ashley's private school accomplishments. Still, there were moments when I desperately craved Mom's approval, a flicker of recognition, a simple I'm proud of you, Nicole. But I've learned to push it down, to focus on what I could control. I had my education, my goals, and thanks to Grandma Eleanor's foresight, I had a future that was mine alone. Senior year flew by in a whirlwind of college applications and scholarship essays. As graduation approached, I found myself sitting at my desk late into the night, fueled by caffeine and determination. My grades had opened up a lot of possibilities. I was particularly excited about State University's full scholarship program and had already been pre-approved based on my academic record. You don't have to take the scholarship route. You know, my guidance counselor, Mrs. Martinez, said during one of our meetings, with your grandmother's college fund, you could attend any school you want. I know, I said, but I have bigger plans for that money. I want to be smart about it. If I can get a full scholarship, I can save the fund for a down payment on a house after graduation. Mrs. Martinez had smiled at that, always thinking ahead, aren't you, Nicole? Then one afternoon, a few weeks before my 18th birthday, I came home from school and found them all sitting in the living room, waiting for me. Mom, Robert, and Ashley, we need to discuss something important, Mom said, her voice unusually formal. Usually, family discussions happened over dinner or in passing, never with this much gravity. As you know, we've been looking at colleges, Robert began, his voice strained. Ashley got accepted to Princeton. Ashley interrupted, finally looking at me, her eyes glittering with smugness. It's my dream school. That's congratulations, I said, not sure why this required a formal family meeting. Princeton has an excellent education. Better than that scholarship school that you got into at State, Mom chimed in. We spent so much on her private school education, Robert added. Mom leaned forward, but we just don't have the resources of Princeton tuition without something else. I sat there, my stomach churning with a growing sense of dread. Then Mom dropped a bomb. We were hoping since you have your grandmother's college fund, you might be willing to share it with Ashley. The room went silent. I stared at Mom, waiting for her to say she was joking, but her face remained serious, her eyes fixed on me with an almost pleading expression. Share my college fund, I repeated slowly, my voice flat. The one Grandma Eleanor set up specifically for my education. You're getting a full scholarship anyway, Ashley said, her voice dripping with entitlement. You don't even need the money. Family helps each other. I sat there, feeling like I had been punched in the gut, robbed of my breath. My future, my grandmother's last gift to me, it wanted me to hand it over to Ashley as if it were nothing. Absolutely not, I said, my voice trembling with anger. What do you mean? No, Robert demanded, his face flushed with anger. I mean no, I said, my voice gaining strength. This money was left to me by my grandmother. It's mine. Robert's face turned red. Do you hear how selfish she sounds? He spat. This is exactly what I've been talking about for years. You are selfish. You have always been. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Selfish. That's rich coming from you guys. What's your tone, young lady? Mom snapped. You've always been jealous of Ashley. Always trying to compete with her. The absurdity of his statement made me laugh again, though there was no humor in it. Jealous of what? Exactly. Of how you've given her everything while treating me like an afterthought. Of how I was practically ignored in my own home. Ashley's face crumpled, and tears started streaming down her cheeks. How dare you? She wailed. Mom's voice was quiet, but it was filled with a venom I'd never heard before. How dare you be so cruel? I'm being cruel, I said, my voice rising. You're asking me to give up my future so your precious princess can go to her dream school. I stood up, my hands clenched into fists. Well then, let me make this very clear. The answer is no, absolutely not. Robert exploded. You have 2 weeks until your birthday to change your mind. If you don't agree to share that money with your sister, you can find somewhere else to live. The floor seemed to tilt under my feet. You're kicking me out? I stammered. This is my house too, Nicole. Mom's voice was cold. This house is in my name. You'll be 18 and adult. I'm not legally obligated to support you anymore. I can't believe this, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I can't believe you're choosing her over me. Again, family helps each other, Robert said, his voice hard. What have you ever treated me like family? I retorted, my voice trembling. They had no answer for that. Instead, Mom just said, think carefully about your choice. The next 3 days were like living in a ghost town where I was the only ghost. No one spoke to me at breakfast. My questions at dinner were met with stony silence. Ashley acted like I was invisible, as if I no longer existed. I ate my meals alone in my room, spent my free time at the library, and tried to make myself as scarce as possible. But every night, lying in my bed, I could hear them in the living room, talking, laughing, watching TV together, a happy family, free. Finally, I had had enough. I made a call. Hello, Mr. Peterson. My hands were shaking as I dialed his number, but his voice was warm and reassuring. Nicole, I was just thinking about you. Your 18th birthday is coming up soon. Yes, Mr. Peterson. That's actually why I'm calling. I took a deep breath and told him everything, the demand for the money, the ultimatum, the threat of being kicked out. He listened quietly until I finished. Those funds are legally yours to control the moment you turn 18. Nicole, he said firmly. Your grandmother was very specific about that. And frankly, I think she suspected something like this might happen someday. What do you mean? I asked, confused. Let's just say she knew her son's ex-wife very well, he said cryptically. Now, about your living situation, look, here's what I suggest. Pick your college first, preferably one in a different city. I can help you with the paperwork. Then, we'll figure out the rest. Emboldened, I spent the afternoon researching apartments near State University. By evening, I had found a small studio apartment just a 10-minute walk from campus. The landlord, Mrs. Chen, was willing to hold it for me with just a promise of payment on my birthday. For the next week, I quietly packed my life into boxes, one small piece at a time. I didn't want anyone to notice what I was doing. Photos, books, clothes, everything I owned. On the morning of my 18th birthday, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. Well, she asked, how arms crossed, have you made your decision? I looked at her, my heart pounding in my chest. Yes, I have. Then you know what that means, she said, her voice devoid of emotion. I want you out of this house today. I think my calm acceptance threw her off. She expected me to beg, to cry, to plead for her to change her mind. Instead, I went upstairs and grabbed my phone. The first thing I did was call Mr. Peterson. By noon, I had access to my grandmother's fund. By 1 p.m., I paid my first month's rent and security deposit to Mrs. Chen. By 2 p.m., I was filling out an application to a job to start right away at the coffee shop down the street from campus. A manager, Mike, had already agreed to hire me for the summer before college starts. My apartment was small, just a studio with a kitchenette, but it was mine. That feeling of freedom, of independence, was intoxicating. Later that day, I was scrolling through Facebook during my coffee shop break when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Friends from high school were messaging me. Have you seen your mom's post? Are you okay? What's going on? With shaking hands, I opened Facebook and saw in Mom's public post, my daughter has broken our hearts. After everything we've done for her, she refuses to help her sister get a college education. Heartless child. The comments below were brutal. Distant relatives I barely knew were chiming in, calling me selfish, ungrateful, and spoiled. How could she be so ungrateful? One person wrote, family should come first. What a spoiled brat. I sat there in the break room, my coffee getting cold, feeling sick to my stomach. Then something snapped. If Mom wanted to air our dirty laundry on social media, then let's tell the whole story. I grabbed my laptop and started typing. Let me share my side of the story. I wrote, yes, I refused to give my stepsister my college for money that my grandmother specifically left for my education. What my mother forgot to mention is that she gave me an ultimatum: either give up my inheritance or get kicked out of the house on my 18th birthday. I was forced to move out because I wouldn't give away money that legally belonged to me. For years, I watched as Ashley got expensive clothes and private school tuition, while I got department store leftovers and a public education. I worked hard and did well in everything I did, something I'm proud of. But apparently, that wasn't enough for them. They wanted my inheritance too. So yes, I refused. And yes, I'm now living on my own, working and preparing for college, all because of what my mother did when she kicked her own daughter out on her birthday. I hit poster and went back to work, my hands still shaking. By the time I finished my shift, my post had gone viral. Former teachers, old family friends, even people who'd known our family for years started sharing stories of how they'd noticed the favoritism but never said anything. My phone rang that evening. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated for a moment, then answered it. "How dare you?" she hissed when I answered. "Do you know how humiliating this is? Mrs. Peterson from church won't even look at me anymore. Half my friends are questioning my parenting. Maybe they should," I said, my voice cold. "You kicked your daughter out for not giving away her inheritance. What kind of parent does that?" "I did everything for you," she screamed. "No, Mom, you did everything for Ashley, and that's fine, but I'm done. Goodbye, Mom." I hung up and blocked her number. Then I blocked her on all social media. It was surprisingly easy. Now I'm in my first semester at State University. My small apartment feels more like home every day. I have a great job, I'm making new friends, and I'm finally in control of my own life. Sometimes I think about their mom, Robert, and Ashley, and I feel a pang of sadness. But then I look at Grandma Eleanor's picture sitting on my desk, and sometimes I swear she's smiling at me with pride. She knew I'd need this money, not just for education, but for freedom. She gave me the means to choose my own path, and I'll never forget that. Do you think I handled this situation correctly? Based on everything I've read and the difficult circumstances I was in, was I justified in refusing to share my college fund and cutting off contact with my mother and stepsister? Or should I have tried to find a compromise? I would love to hear your honest opinions on the choices I made and any alternative courses of action I could have taken given what occurred, and would appreciate hearing your thoughts and recommendations on this complicated predicament.